Are world leaders being murdered via plane crash? Did Matt and I get in over our heads when we started digging into this series? Spoiler alert, the answer to that second one is probably yes. You can turn back now, or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. Matt and I were astonished by how many plane crashes are considered suspicious. We spent so much time looking at so much stuff that we couldn't use in this series. We only mentioned some folks that deserve more investigation, such as Michael Connell, John F. Kennedy Jr., and that's just the beginning. But two in particular caught our eyes. Matt and I's eyes, not the all-seeing eye that may or may not be in that plane crash art. What we saw was a very interesting year, 1981, South America. Two presidents die. One is an Ecuadorian president. His name is Jaime Roldós. He dies in a plane crash on May 24th, 1981. And only 2 months later, another president in South America, Panamanian president Omar Torrijos, dies in a plane crash on July 31st, 1981. Coincidence? Well, yes, obviously, a lot of people think so, but let's take a closer look at some of the circumstances here. The official findings on the Roldos accident or plane crash found that pilot error and cargo overloading were the cause of the incident. However, since 1981, numerous theories and rumors and conspiracies have proliferated about this incident. Why? Well, we do know a couple of things. Jaime was not the most popular person in Washington. He was considered a leftist president, at times maybe a dangerous leftist. Now, being a leftist in South America means that you take moves that are seen as for the people, populist movements almost. So, for example, he increased minimum wage. I think he almost doubled it. The theory goes that he was assassinated via a remote-controlled explosive device placed in the plane. You can read more about this in a book called Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Point: Roldos was attempting to reorganize the hydrocarbon sector. He was also making some moves to strengthen economic ties with Colombia and Peru. Point: even now in 2013, there are some contradictions in official conclusions about this event. For instance, the Zurich police apparently found that the engine shut off shortly before the impact. Fast forward 2 months. Omar Torrijos, Panamanian president, dies in a plane crash July 31st, 1981. Point: according to some of his former employees, as well as some of his family members, Torrijos was considered a leftist, and the Reagan administration was concerned that he wouldn't support their war against the Sandinistas in Nicaragua. At the time, one of Torrijos' employees was Manuel Noriega. Torrijos did not trust Noriega. He knew that Noriega was working with the CIA. He was surprised that the CIA would still patronize Noriega despite the man's links to drug cartels. Point: in a book called Clandestine Stars by Colonel Diaz, the author argues that Torrijos was murdered by Noriega in cooperation with either the US Army or the CIA by putting a remote-controlled explosive device on the plane. Sound familiar? Counterpoint: people die in plane accidents. It happens. Point: two politicians, 2 months apart, two separate accidents, two similar views of them in Washington. One last point. When Noriega was arrested in 1989, he apparently offered to give the court documents linking the CIA to Torrijos' plane crash. The court refused. So what does this all mean? Again, there's no hard evidence that an intelligence organization sabotaged these planes. However, there are people who believe that they do have hard evidence. As we've mentioned, there's Clandestine Stars. You can also find both of these accidents referenced in Confessions of an Economic Hitman by a fellow named John Perkins. Now, we've touched on this book before, and maybe we should dive into it deeper. We want to know what you think. Do you think this is all just sort of tinfoil, claptrap, BS? Or do you think that a lot of these things are exaggerated, but this one checks out? We want to hear what you think, and a lot of that will hinge upon what you think of the authors making these claims. Some people in our YouTube comments, and as always, thank you for commenting, have said that Perkins is sort of fraudulent, exaggerating things to look more important, which unfortunately we do know happens. I mean, anybody who's been on a first date knows that stuff happens, or a job interview. Did you tweet us? Logical Comment writes in to say, Larry P. McDonald's death is a definite contender. Larry P. McDonald is a congressman. If you check out our Twitter feed, you can see Logical Comment's link to more information. Second tweet, our buddy Chris, Beef Like Rotel, said, have you guys covered the stuff on number stations? If not, that'd be enlightening. Chris, we've checked out number stations. We also think they're amazing. Our buddies over at Tech Stuff also have a podcast on number stations. As always, thank you for watching. Matt and I are on the internet. It's sort of our job. You can befriend us on Facebook, where sometimes we make pretty good jokes, but most of the times we post really interesting stuff and bad jokes. You can also drop us a line on Twitter, like Logical Comment and Beef Like Rotel have done, and who knows, it might end up on our show. Failing all that, and if you want to get a little bit further away from the grid, you can send us an email. We're conspiracy@discovery.com.